The massive space station hung in the void like a metal flower, its arms reaching out into the darkness between stars. Kepler Station was the biggest neutral meeting place in this part of the galaxy. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its ports every day. Today was special, though. Today, the humans were coming to talk peace. Ambassador Elena Vasquez looked out the small window of her transport ship as they got closer to the station. She was a woman in her 40s with dark hair pulled back in a simple style. Her clothes were neat and clean. A dark blue diplomatic jacket with a high collar that covered her neck completely. She looked like what most aliens expected from human diplomats. Soft, weak, untested. The docking went smooth. Elena walked down the ramp with two assistants following behind her. The station's main hall was huge with a ceiling that seemed to go up forever. Aliens of all kinds moved around, talking in their different languages. The air recyclers worked hard to keep the atmosphere breathable for everyone. War Commander Thexal was waiting for her. He was a Zephyrian, standing almost 8 feet tall with gray skin that looked like old leather. His forearms were crossed over his chest, and his yellow eyes looked down at Elena like she was some kind of bug. Behind him stood 6 other Zephyrian officers, all just as big and scary looking. "So this is what the humans send to negotiate with warriors," Thexal said in his deep voice. The translation device made his words sound cold and mean. "A small female who has never held a weapon." Elena smiled politely and bowed her head a little. "War Commander Thexal, thank you for agreeing to meet. I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez of the Terran Coalition." One of the Zephyrian officers laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. "Look at her," he said to his friends. "Clean clothes, soft hands. I bet she has never even seen a real battle." Other aliens in the hall had stopped to watch. There were Karathi with their sharp claws, Nexian warriors with their metal implants, and Vorthon soldiers with scars covering their blue skin. They all looked at Elena the same way, like she was a child playing dress-up. "Where are your battle marks, human?" asked another Zephyrian. "On my world, we show our victories with pride. You show nothing because you have nothing to show." Elena kept smiling. She had heard this kind of talk before. "Perhaps we could move to the conference room?" "We have much to discuss." Thexal made a sound like a snort. "Yes, let us get this over with quickly. Your people will accept our terms and we can all go home." The conference room was big and round with a table in the middle. Representatives from 12 different species sat around it, but everyone was really here to watch the humans and Zephyrians. The Zephyrian Empire had been growing bigger and stronger for 50 years. They had conquered world after world. Now they wanted to add human space to their empire. Elena sat down across from Thexal. She put her hands on the table and looked calm and ready. The Zephyrian commander pulled out a datapad and slid it across to her. "These are our terms," he said. "Your people will become part of our empire. You will pay tribute. You will follow our laws. You will give us your best technology. In return, we will not destroy your worlds." Elena picked up the datapad and read through it slowly. The other aliens in the room watched her face, waiting to see fear or panic. Instead, she just looked thoughtful. "These terms are not acceptable," she said finally. The room got very quiet. Thexal's eyes got narrow and mean. "Not acceptable?" he repeated. "Do you know who you are talking to, human? I have conquered 17 worlds. My ships have burned a dozen civilizations to ash. What have you done? What has your soft species ever accomplished?" "We have accomplished quite a lot, actually," Elena said in the same calm voice. "But I would prefer to find a peaceful solution to our disagreement." The Zephyrians all started laughing. It was a harsh, ugly sound that echoed off the walls. "Peaceful solution," one of them said. "She wants peace because humans are too weak to fight." "Your military reports say you have maybe 300 ships," Thexal said. "We have over 2,000. Your technology is basic. Your people are soft. You have no chance in a real war." An old Karathi diplomat named Kextar leaned forward. His species had fought the Zephyrians before and lost. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said, "perhaps you should consider their offer." "The Zephyrians do not give second chances." Elena nodded to him. "Thank you for your concern, Kextar. But the Terran Coalition does not surrender to threats." "Threats?" Thexal stood up, his forearms spreading wide. "This is not a threat, human. This is reality. You have 2 choices. Join our empire willingly, or we will make you join by force." "And if we refuse both options?" Elena asked. Then your species will learn what happens to those who defy the Zephyrian Empire, Thexal said. His officers all nodded and made angry sounds. The room felt heavy with tension. Some of the smaller species representatives looked scared. They had all heard stories about what the Zephyrians did to worlds that fought back. Elena stood up slowly. She looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at her. Most of them seemed to feel sorry for her. They thought she was about to make a terrible mistake that would doom her entire species. War Commander, she said, before I give you our answer, may I ask you something? What? Thexal snapped. Do you really believe that humans have survived this long in a dangerous galaxy by being weak? Thexal laughed again. You survived because you were lucky, because you hid in your little corner of space while real warriors fought real wars. But your luck has run out, Elena smiled. It was a different kind of smile now. Not polite or diplomatic, something else. Something that made a few of the aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. I see, she said. Well then, I think it is time you learned something about humans. She reached up and started to loosen the high collar of her jacket. The Zephyrians watched, thinking she was about to surrender. They expected her to pull out surrender documents or maybe start crying. They had no idea what was about to happen. The room stayed quiet as Elena's fingers worked on the buttons. Outside the big windows, stars twinkled in the darkness. Ships moved slowly around the station. Everything seemed normal and peaceful. But in that conference room, something was about to change forever. Elena's smile got a little wider as she prepared to show these warriors exactly what kind of species they had decided to threaten. The Zephyrians were about to learn that there were many different kinds of strength in the galaxy, and humans had mastered them all. Elena finished unbuttoning her collar but did not pull it open yet. Instead, she sat back down and looked directly at Thexal. The Zephyrian commander was getting impatient. He thought the human was just wasting time. What game are you playing? He demanded. We do not have all day for your weak human tricks. No games, Elena said. I just want to make sure you understand what you're asking for. She pulled out her own datapad and placed it on the table. With a few quick touches, she brought up a star map showing both human and Zephyrian space. You claim humans are weak because we avoid unnecessary conflicts, she said. But perhaps you should ask yourself why a species that values peace has managed to expand so quickly through this region of space. Thexal looked at the map and snorted. You expanded because no one bothered to stop you. The real powers in this galaxy have been busy fighting each other. Is that what you think? Elena asked. She touched the map again, and red dots appeared in human space. These mark the locations of conflicts in the last 50 years. As you can see, human space has not been as peaceful as you believe. The room leaned forward to look at the map. There were a lot of red dots, more than anyone expected. Small conflicts, one of the Zephyrian officers said. Pirates and rebels. Nothing serious. Elena smiled that strange smile again. The hegemony of Claw thought the same thing when they decided to test human resolve. They sent 300 ships to take our mining worlds in the outer reach. She touched the map again. A section of space lit up, showing the path of what looked like a major military campaign. The war lasted 8 months, Elena continued. The hegemony no longer exists. Kextar, the old Karathi diplomat, made a soft sound of surprise. The hegemony of Claw? But they were a major power. They had over 500 worlds. Had, Elena agreed. Past tense. Thexal leaned forward, looking more interested now. You are lying. We would have heard about a war that large, would you? Elena asked. The hegemony attacked our territory. We defended ourselves. When they refused to stop attacking, we made sure they could never attack anyone again. It was handled quietly and efficiently. She brought up another section of the map. Then there were the Ravagers of the Dark Nebula. They specialized in enslaving populations and selling them. They thought humans would make good slaves because we looked soft and weak. Another path of lights appeared on the map, showing another campaign. That war lasted only 3 months, Elena said. The Ravagers were better fighters than the hegemony, but they made the mistake of attacking civilian targets. Humans do not react well to that. The room was getting very quiet now. Even the Zephyrians were paying close attention. And then, Elena continued, there was the Machine Collective. They were expanding through this region, turning organic species into fuel for their factories. They calculated that humans would be easy to process because we had no major military achievements. A third set of lights appeared on the map. This campaign looked even bigger than the first two. The Machine Collective was the most dangerous enemy we had faced, Elena said. They had no fear, no mercy, and no understanding of pain. The war lasted 2 years and required us to develop entirely new ways of fighting. She looked around the room. The Machine Collective also no longer exists. Thexal was staring at the map now. All those campaigns had happened in space that was supposed to be empty or controlled by minor powers. But according to this human, there had been 3 major wars that somehow the galaxy had not noticed. "You are making this up," he said, but his voice did not sound as confident as before. Elena touched her datapad again. The map changed to show current galactic powers and their territories. Where the hegemony, the Ravagers, and the Machine Collective used to be, there was now empty space marked as uninhabited or disputed territory. "Check your own records," Elena said. All 3 of those powers simply stopped communicating with the galaxy one day. Their territory became empty. Their trade stopped. Their ships disappeared from shipping lanes. Kekstar was looking at his own datapad now, checking records. His face went pale. "She is right," he said quietly. "The hegemony of Claw stopped all communications 37 years ago. We assumed they had closed their borders. The Ravagers stopped raiding 22 years ago," added a Nexian representative, also checking her data. "Our military analysts thought they had found easier targets elsewhere." "And the Machine Collective," said a Vorthan captain. "Their expansion just stopped 15 years ago. Our scouts reported finding empty factory worlds, but we assumed they had moved on to another galaxy." The room was dead silent now. Everyone was looking at Elena with new eyes. The small, soft human diplomat suddenly seemed much more dangerous. Thexal's 4 hands clenched into fists. "Even if this is true, those were not real military powers. The Zephyrian Empire is different. We are stronger, are you?" Elena asked. The hegemony thought they were the strongest military in the region. The Machine Collective had technology that could process entire star systems. The Ravagers had defeated everyone they fought for 200 years. She stood up again and placed her hands on the table. "But you are right about one thing, War Commander. The Zephyrian Empire is different." Thexal straightened up, thinking she was about to compliment his people's strength. "You are different because you announced your intentions before attacking," Elena continued. "The others just attacked without warning. You are giving humans time to prepare." "Prepare?" Thexal laughed, but it sounded forced now. "What can you prepare? You said yourself that you only have 300 ships." Elena's smile got wider. "I said our military reports list 300 ships. I did not say that was all we have." She touched her datapad one more time. The display changed to show ship classifications and numbers. The Zephyrians leaned forward to read it, then sat back like they had been hit. "These numbers cannot be correct," Thexal said, but his voice was shaking a little. "Standard patrol fleets, 300 ships," Elena read from the display. "Defense platforms, 8,000. Deep space monitors, 12,000. Strategic reserve fleets classified. Rapid response units classified. Experimental divisions classified." She looked up at Thexal. "The 300 ships you know about are just the ones we use for normal patrol duties. They are the ones we let other species see." The Zephyrian officers were talking to each other in their own language now, voices urgent and worried. Thexal held up one hand to quiet them. "You are trying to frighten us with lies," he said. "No species could hide a fleet that large. Could they not?" Elena asked. "Space is very big, War Commander. And humans are very good at hiding things when they need to." She began loosening her collar a little more. "Perhaps it is time I showed you exactly what kind of species you have decided to threaten." Elena stood slowly and reached for the top button of her high collar. The room watched in complete silence. Even the air recyclers seemed quieter than before. Every alien in the conference room was focused on the small human woman who had just claimed her species had secretly fought and won 3 major wars. Thexal crossed his forearms and glared at her. "Whatever trick you are planning, human, it will not work. The Zephyrian Empire does not frighten easily." "I am not trying to frighten anyone," Elena said as she undid the first button. "I am simply going to show you something that humans usually keep private." She undid the second button, then the third. The high collar of her diplomatic jacket began to loosen and pull away from her neck. "In most species, warriors display their achievements proudly," Elena continued, working on the fourth button. Scars, tattoos, medals, ritual markings. The Zephyrians paint their victories on their armor. The Karathi carve notches in their claws. The Nexians add metal implants for each battle won. Thexal nodded. As it should be. A warrior's glory should be visible to all. Humans are different, Elena said, undoing the fifth button. We believe that true strength does not need to be displayed. Our greatest warriors often look just like regular people. She finished with the buttons and slowly pulled the collar open. What the aliens saw made several of them gasp out loud. Elena's neck and throat were covered in markings. But these were not simple tattoos or decorative scars. These were the marks of someone who had seen real war. A jagged scar ran from her left ear down to her collarbone, still slightly pink even after years of healing. Burn marks covered the right side of her neck, the kind that came from energy weapons or ship fires. Between the scars were tattoos, but not the kind civilians got. These were military markings, each one telling a story of battle and victory. The scar on the left, Elena said, touching it gently, came from the siege of Proxima Station. I was a lieutenant then, leading a boarding party against hegemony ships. Their commander tried to cut my throat with a plasma blade. She moved her finger to the burn marks. These are from the Battle of the Burning Ring. The Ravagers had turned an entire asteroid belt into a trap. My ship's bridge took a direct hit from their slave burner weapons. I was the only officer who survived. The room was dead silent. The aliens stared at Elena like they were seeing her for the first time. She pulled the collar down further, revealing more markings on her shoulders and the top of her chest. There were dozens of small scars, each one precise and deliberate. Military tattoos covered the spaces between them, written in symbols that most aliens could not read. These small marks, Elena said, pointing to the scars, are from the machine war. Each one represents a factory world we destroyed. 47 worlds where the machine collective was processing organic life into fuel. Thexal leaned forward, staring at the markings. 47 worlds? That is impossible. No one could destroy that many worlds and keep it secret. We did not destroy the worlds themselves, Elena explained. We destroyed the factories, turned the machines against each other, made their own technology consume them from within. The worlds are still there, but they are clean now, growing new life. She pointed to a series of blue tattoos that looked like stars. These marked the major battles of the machine war. Sigma Draconis, where we learned to hack their network systems. The Twin Suns Gambit, where we turned 50,000 battle machines into our allies. The Final Protocol, where we gave the machine collective's central mind a logic problem it could not solve. Kextar was shaking his head slowly. You are saying you defeated the machine collective by making them think themselves to death? Among other methods, Elena said. She touched a red tattoo that looked like a spiral. This marks the day we learned that sometimes the most effective weapon is not a gun or a bomb. Sometimes it is an idea. The Zephyrian officers were talking to each other again, but quieter this time. They kept looking at Elena's markings and then at each other with expressions of growing concern. Elena pulled her collar down a little more, revealing her shoulders. More scars, more tattoos, more evidence of wars that the galaxy had never heard about. The Ravagers left these, she said, pointing to a series of parallel scars across her right shoulder. Their whips were designed to cause maximum pain without killing quickly. They used them on prisoners to break their will. How did you escape? Asked a Vorthan captain, leaning forward with professional interest. I did not escape, Elena said. I was rescued, but not before I learned how their whips worked, how their ships were built, and where they kept their main slave processing centers. She touched a gold tattoo that looked like a sun. This marks the liberation of the Crying Worlds, 17 planets where the Ravagers had enslaved entire populations. We freed them all in a single day, one day. Thexal's voice was getting higher. You freed 17 worlds in one day? Simultaneous strikes, Elena explained. While the Ravagers were focused on their new raid against human territory, we sent liberation fleets to every world they controlled. They came home to find their empire gone. More tattoos told more stories. Each marking was small and simple, but together they painted a picture of someone who had not just fought in wars, but had planned them, led them, and won them. The green marks here, Elena said, pointing to a series of tattoos on her left shoulder, represent strategic victories. Not battles, but entire campaigns. The hegemony thought they were conquering human worlds one by one. They did not realize we were leading them into a trap that took 2 years to complete. She looked around the room at all the staring faces. Humans do not like war. We do not celebrate it or seek it out. But when war comes to us, we fight with everything we have. And we fight to win completely. Thexal was staring at a complex tattoo near Elena's collarbone. It looked like a star map, but with symbols he did not recognize. "What does that one mean?" he asked, pointing at it. Elena looked down at the tattoo and smiled. It was a sad smile this time, full of memories. "That one," she said, "marks the day I decided to become a diplomat instead of a soldier." She began to button her collar back up, hiding the markings again. "I got tired of winning wars. I decided to try preventing them instead." The room stayed quiet as Elena covered up the evidence of her past. When she was done, she looked exactly like she had when she first walked in. A neat, clean diplomat in a simple blue jacket, but now everyone in the room knew what was hidden underneath. "So you see—" "War Commander," Elena said, sitting back down, "when I tell you that the Terran Coalition prefers peaceful solutions, I am not speaking from weakness. I am speaking from experience." Thexal and his officers looked at each other with new understanding in their eyes. They had come here expecting to intimidate a soft, weak species. Instead, they had found something much more dangerous. A species that was very good at war but had chosen to be good at peace instead. The conference room remained silent for a long moment after Elena finished buttoning her collar. The aliens were all processing what they had just learned. The small human diplomat was not what she appeared to be. None of the humans were what they appeared to be. Thexal was the first to speak, but his voice had changed. The arrogant confidence was gone, replaced by something more careful. "Even if what you say is true," he said slowly, "the Zephyrian Empire is not like these other powers. We have fought and conquered for 50 years. We know how to adapt to enemy tactics." Elena nodded politely. "I am sure you do. Your military record is impressive. 17 conquered worlds, you said? 17 worlds, 43 space stations, and over 100 smaller colonies," Thexal said, some of his pride returning. "Our fleets have never been defeated in open battle." "That is quite an achievement," Elena agreed. "May I show you something?" She touched her datapad, and the wall display changed to show a detailed star map of Zephyrian space. Every conquered world was marked in red, with dates and fleet numbers listed beside them. "We have been watching your expansion with interest," Elena said. "Your tactical approach is very efficient. Strike fast, overwhelm local defenses, demand surrender before reinforcements can arrive." Thexal straightened up. "Our military doctrine has proven successful against every enemy we have faced." "Against the enemies you have faced so far," Elena corrected gently. "But tell me, War Commander, what do you know about human military doctrine?" She touched the datapad again. The display changed to show recorded footage from space battles. But these were not the small skirmishes that most aliens knew about. These were massive fleet engagements with hundreds of ships on each side. "This is from the Battle of Proxima," Elena said as the footage played. "The hegemony brought 300 ships thinking they could overwhelm our mining colony with pure numbers. The aliens watched as human ships moved in patterns they had never seen before. Instead of charging straight at the enemy like most species did, the human fleets seemed to dance around their opponents, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing before the enemy could respond. We brought 50 ships to that battle," Elena continued. "By the time it was over, the hegemony had lost 240 ships. We lost 3. "Impossible," breathed one of the Zephyrian officers. "No one has that kind of tactical advantage," Elena smiled. "Would you like to see the Battle of the Twin Suns?" That one was even more interesting. The footage changed to show an even larger battle. This time, human ships were fighting against machines that moved with perfect coordination and had no fear of death. The Machine Collective sent 800 ships to destroy our main fleet base, Elena said. They calculated that their superior numbers and fearless tactics would guarantee victory. The aliens watched as human ships used the gravity wells of twin stars to slingshot around the battlefield, striking the machine fleets from directions that seemed impossible. Some human ships even seemed to disappear entirely, only to reappear behind enemy lines. "We brought 200 ships to that battle," Elena said. When it was over, the Machine Collective had lost all 800 ships. "We lost 23. Thexal was leaning forward now, studying the tactics being displayed. "How do your ships move like that? Some of them seem to be in 2 places at once." "Trade secret," Elena said with a small smile. But I can tell you that humans have always been good at thinking in 3 dimensions. Most species fight space battles like they are still fighting on the ground. We fight them like we are flying through space. She brought up another recording. This one showed a battle that looked completely different from the others. Instead of big fleet movements, it showed small groups of human ships appearing suddenly throughout an enemy formation, striking key targets, and vanishing again. This is from the liberation of the crying worlds, Elena said. 17 simultaneous strikes across 17 different star systems. Each liberation fleet had only 12 ships, but they all knew exactly where to hit and exactly when to do it. The footage showed Ravager slave ships being disabled with surgical precision. Human boarding parties moved through enemy vessels like they knew every corridor by heart. Within hours, entire slave fleets were captured or destroyed. Coordination across 17 star systems? Kextar asked in amazement. The communication delays alone should make that impossible. Should, Elena agreed. But humans have developed some interesting solutions to the communication problem. She closed the battle recordings and brought up a different kind of display. This one showed star charts with ship movements tracked over time. The patterns were beautiful and complex, like watching a dance performed across light years of space. This is what human fleet doctrine actually looks like, Elena said. We do not just move ships from point A to point B. We think of space as a living thing, with currents and tides and hidden paths that most species never notice. Thexel studied the patterns, his tactical mind trying to understand what he was seeing. These movement patterns, they should not be possible with conventional drive systems. Who said anything about conventional drive systems? Elena asked. She brought up another display, this one showing technical specifications for human ships. The Zephyrians read through the data, and their expressions grew more and more concerned. These reactor outputs are 3 times what our ships can achieve, one officer said. These weapons ranges are impossible, said another. And these drive signatures, Thexel said slowly. Our sensors have never detected anything like them. Elena nodded. Human ships are designed differently from most species' vessels. We build them to be invisible when they need to be invisible, and overwhelming when they need to be overwhelming. She touched the display again, and it showed a single human ship facing off against a Zephyrian battlecruiser. The specifications were listed side by side. This is a standard human patrol vessel, Elena said, the kind we use for routine missions. It carries a crew of 80 and is designed to operate alone for months at a time. The Zephyrians read the specifications and went very quiet. Its main weapons have twice the range of your heaviest guns, Elena continued. Its shields can withstand 3 times the punishment your armor can take, and its drive system allows it to outrun anything in your fleet. She looked directly at Thexel. We have 300 of these ships on routine patrol duty. They are the smallest and weakest vessels in our fleet. The room was dead silent again. The implications of what Elena was saying were sinking in. You asked earlier about our real military strength, Elena said. You wanted to know what humans could do in a real war? She brought up one final display. This one showed the current positions of human fleets throughout known space. There were a lot more red dots than anyone expected. Our deep space monitors are already in position around every major Zephyrian world, Elena said calmly. Our rapid response units are standing by in hidden bases throughout this sector. Our strategic reserve fleets are ready to move at a moment's notice. Thexel stared at the display, counting the dots. How many ships do you actually have? Elena smiled that dangerous smile again. Enough. She stood up and looked around the room at all the stunned faces. So here is my counteroffer, War Commander, she said. The Terran Coalition proposes a mutual non-aggression pact. We will respect Zephyrian territory and sovereignty. In return, you will respect ours. We will even be willing to share some of our less sensitive technologies to help with your expansion into uninhabited regions. She paused and let that sink in. The alternative, Elena continued, is to learn firsthand why the hegemony of Claw, the ravagers of the Dark Nebula, and the Machine Collective are no longer factors in galactic politics. Thexal looked at his officers. They all looked back at him with expressions that said the same thing. They had come here expecting to conquer a weak species. Instead, they had found something that could probably conquer them. We will need time to consider your proposal, Thexal said finally. Of course, Elena said, sitting back down. Take all the time you need. But remember, War Commander, the offer expires when you leave this station. She smiled pleasantly. After that, the Terran Coalition will assume that the Zephyrian Empire has chosen war instead of peace. The recess lasted for 3 hours. Thexal and his officers spent the time in urgent communication with their home fleet, while the other alien representatives quietly discussed what they had just witnessed. Elena sat calmly in the human section of the conference room, reviewing her notes and occasionally sipping water from a simple cup. Kextar, the old Karathi diplomat, approached her during the break. His clawed hands were clasped nervously in front of him. "Ambassador Vasquez," he said quietly, "may I ask you something in private?" Elena looked up and smiled. "Of course, Kextar. What can I do for you?" The old alien glanced around to make sure no one else was listening. "When the Karathi clans fought the Zephyrians 10 years ago, we lost badly. Our fleets were destroyed, our worlds conquered. But before that happened, we sent out distress calls to every known species asking for help." Elena nodded. "I remember those calls. The Terran Coalition sent a response," Kextar continued. "Your people said you were sorry for our situation, but that humans did not interfere in conflicts between other species. We thought you were just making excuses because you were too weak to help." Elena's expression grew sad. "We were not too weak, Kextar. We were trying to avoid revealing our true capabilities. If we had helped you fight the Zephyrians then, this conversation would have happened 10 years ago under much worse circumstances. So, you could have saved my people's worlds?" There was pain in the old alien's voice. "We could have," Elena admitted, "but doing so would have meant exposing human military capabilities to the entire galaxy. Every aggressive species would have seen us as either a threat to be destroyed or a prize to be conquered. The galaxy would have become a much more dangerous place." Kextar was quiet for a moment. "And now?" "Now the Zephyrians have forced our hand," Elena said. "They are the last major aggressive power in this region. After today, one way or another, that problem will be solved. Then perhaps humans can be more open about helping species that are genuinely threatened." The old Karathi bowed his head. "I understand. You were playing a longer game. We have learned that sometimes you must let smaller injustices happen to prevent larger ones," Elena said. "It is not a pleasant lesson, but it is a necessary one." When the recess ended, everyone returned to their seats. Thexal looked like he had aged 10 years in 3 hours. His officers seemed subdued and kept glancing at Elena with something that looked like respect, mixed with fear. "Ambassador Vasquez," Thexal said formally, "the Zephyrian Empire has reviewed your proposal." "And?" Elena asked politely. "We accept your terms," Thexal said. The words seemed to stick in his throat, but he got them out. "The Zephyrian Empire agrees to a mutual non-aggression pact with the Terran Coalition." Elena smiled, and this time it was a genuinely warm expression. "I am very pleased to hear that, War Commander. I think this will be the beginning of a much more stable region of space." But Thexal was not finished. "However, we do have some questions about the future." "Ask away," Elena said. Thexal leaned forward. "If humans are as powerful as you claim, why do you choose diplomacy over conquest? Most species with overwhelming force use it to expand their territory." Elena was quiet for a moment, considering her answer. "May I tell you a story, War Commander?" "Please." Elena stood up and walked to the large window that looked out into space. 50 years ago, when humans first developed faster than light travel, we were very excited. We thought we would find a galaxy full of friendly species who would welcome us and share knowledge with us. She gestured to the view outside. Instead, we found the hegemony of Claw. They attacked our first colony ship without warning or provocation. 3,000 civilians died before the ship could escape. The room was listening intently. The human government was furious. Elena continued. Some leaders wanted to build a massive war fleet and destroy the hegemony immediately. Others wanted to retreat back to Earth and never leave our solar system again. She turned back to face the room. But a few wise people suggested a third option. They said we should learn everything we could about this dangerous galaxy before deciding how to respond. So that is what we did. Elena walked back to her seat. We spent years studying every species we could find. We learned about their histories, their cultures, their military capabilities, and we discovered something interesting. "What?" asked the Nexian representative. "Almost every aggressive species in the galaxy had the same story," Elena said. They had started out peaceful, but the galaxy had taught them that only the strong survive. So they became strong, and then they used that strength to make sure no one could threaten them again. She sat down and looked directly at Thexal. The Zephyrian Empire conquered 17 worlds not because you wanted those worlds, but because you were afraid that if you did not conquer them, someone else would conquer you. Thexal shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps there is some truth to that. So humans made a different choice, Elena continued. We decided to become stronger than anyone else, but to use that strength to create peace instead of fear. Every war we have fought has been to remove threats to galactic stability, not to expand human territory. And when all the threats are gone? Asked a Vorthan captain. Elena smiled. Then humans will go back to what we actually enjoy doing. Exploring, learning, creating new things. We are scientists and engineers and artists who happen to be very good at war when we have to be. The negotiations that followed were surprisingly smooth. Now that both sides understood each other's true position, they could work out details quickly and fairly. The Zephyrians would keep their current territory but agree to stop expanding through conquest. Humans would share certain technologies that would help the Zephyrians explore uninhabited regions instead. More importantly, other species in the room were already thinking about what this new balance of power meant for them. If humans were secretly the strongest military force in the galaxy, but only used that strength to maintain peace, then the galaxy was about to become a much safer place. As the formal treaty was being prepared, Elena reached up and loosened her collar one more time, but this time, instead of revealing battle scars, she unfastened a small pin that had been hidden under the fabric. It was a simple thing, made of silver and blue metal, but several aliens in the room recognized the design. Is that a Terran Diplomatic Corps peace medal? Asked Kextar in surprise. Elena nodded as she pinned it to the outside of her jacket. I earned this for successfully negotiating the end of the Rigel border conflicts without a single shot being fired. It is the achievement I am most proud of. She looked around the room. You see, anyone can win a war if they are strong enough, but it takes real skill to win a peace. Thexal stared at the medal, then at Elena's face. How many wars could you have prevented if you had revealed your strength earlier? Unknown, Elena admitted, but also irrelevant. We revealed it now when the galaxy was ready to hear it. Sometimes timing is more important than strength. The treaty signing ceremony was brief but meaningful. Representatives from a dozen species signed as witnesses, making it clear that the entire region supported this new arrangement. As the various delegations prepared to leave the station, Thexal approached Elena one last time. Ambassador, he said, I have one final question. Yes? When you chose to become a diplomat instead of a soldier, was it because you got tired of winning wars? Elena smiled and began buttoning her collar back up, hiding her battle markings once again. No, War Commander. I became a diplomat because I realized that the greatest victory is the war you never have to fight. She finished with the buttons and looked exactly like she had when she first arrived. A neat, professional diplomat in a simple blue jacket. Besides, she added with a small grin, diplomacy is much more challenging than warfare. In war, you only have to defeat your enemy. In diplomacy, you have to help your enemy defeat themselves. As Elena walked away, Thexal watched her go with new understanding. The humans had not hidden their strength out of fear or shame. They had hidden it because they understood, something that most species in the galaxy had forgotten. The strongest person in the room is often the one who chooses not to prove it. News of the treaty spread quickly through the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire announced that it was changing its expansion policy to focus on uninhabited systems. Other aggressive species quietly reconsidered their own military plans. And throughout human space, patrol fleets continued their normal duties, looking exactly like they always had. But now everyone knew what was hidden beneath the surface. The galaxy had become a more peaceful place, not through conquest or intimidation, but through the simple revelation that the most dangerous species in the region had chosen to be protectors instead of predators. Elena returned to Earth with another successful negotiation to add to her record. She filed her report, cleaned her uniform, and prepared for her next assignment. After all, there were always more wars to prevent.